But before we get into the questions, I want to spend about 15 minutes kind of pulling back the curtain on how Hook and Ladder builds digital marketing strategies, how we approach answering these questions. And really, it's through a framework that we've been trained on over the last number of years from Ryan Dice and his team at Digital Marketer. And rather than building digital campaigns, we try to, as a team, build digital marketing or marketing systems that, you know, have campaigns and projects within them. But the difference between a campaign and a system for us is that we're looking for a sense of predictability and profitability to your marketing program, right? So that over time, campaign wins and campaign, lessons learned roll up to create more consistency and predictability to your overall marketing program. So before jumping into the questions, I'm going to share my screen and just go through a very simple framework that we leverage for every single client we work with, for every campaign that we work with. And hopefully you guys, I know there's some agency folks in the audience or client side. If you can take some of these and work with your team, I think that you'll enjoy it. Okay, so I'll just share my screen here. Connor, can you can see my screen? Okay. So everyone knows that, when you're building a marketing campaign or a marketing program, it's important to understand your customer, right? We all know this. We understand that you have to define your target audience. Where do they live? What do they do? What are they talking about? At Hook and Ladder, we utilize a tool called the before and after grid matrix, which is essentially a tool that allows us to identify our customer segment and then define a little bit more in terms of who they are rather than just their demographic profile. And specifically, we are looking at something called transformation, right? People don't buy products or services, features or benefits. They buy transformation from a non-ideal before state to an ideal after state. I mean, anything anyone in the audience is selling, deep down, your customer, that's what they're buying. They're buying that transformative state, right? So communicated in another way, a great sales message simply articulates this shift or the transformation, right? From non-ideal before to ideal after. So we leverage a tool called the before and after grid, as I mentioned, which is broken down by 4 key points. Number 1 is customer segment, where we identify exactly who you're going after. And obviously most businesses have 3 or 4 or 5, multiple customer segments, each one of them uniquely different from each other. And we need to understand those differences in order to build an effective marketing program. Okay, so the first step is to define who they are, right? And just give them a name, right? Second is to map out for this person or for this customer segment, what is their non-ideal before state? What do they have? What do they feel? What does their average day look like? What is their status in relation to others? And what do they believe from a macro view of the world, like good versus evil, right? And not thinking at all about any of your products or services yet, just thinking specifically about your customer segment, right? So if your customer segment is a brand new mom with a brand new baby, in a non-ideal before state, to try to define them. And then putting yourself in their shoes, what does an ideal after state look like for that person? Again, not at all thinking about your product or service at this point, just, if let's say an average day for a mom in a non-ideal before state is hectic and crazy and pulling my hair out. Whereas if we could define the perfect average day for them afterwards, maybe it's confident, in control, able to relax and enjoy, my baby's formative years. That's sort of what we're looking at, okay? So first is customer segment, second is before state, third is after state, and then and only then do you identify, well, what products and services do you have that you can offer them that sort of create a bridge between these two states, right? And that's where we have the opportunity to sell things, or you have the opportunity to sell things at scale and more efficiently and predictably, because you're not leading with conversation about your product and service. You're leading with what they really want, which is that desired after state, okay? So just to exemplify this, you know, with our agency is that one of our primary customer segments is a marketing director that has limited experience or understanding about digital. Okay, that person is very different than the marketing director that we target, who, you know, maybe just came off working with another agency. So in this case, what do they have? Potentially they have lackluster results. They feel frustrated, scared, scared of failure, overwhelmed. They're trying to coach an underperforming team, but not knowing exactly how. They're trying to coach. Oh yeah, you got that. Their status is, you know, again, this is perceived, but perhaps they feel disrespected in the boardroom. Maybe they feel that people are looking at them and saying, hey, this marketing director is a bit behind the times, and they ought to catch up. And they might believe that, you know, doesn't matter what I do, I can't do anything right, I'm a fraud, I shouldn't be in this position, right? Now, some of these before statements are real and some of them are perceived, but I think for a large majority of marketing directors out there that fit this customer segment, some of this would be would ring true. Okay, so that's defined the non-ideal before state. What about an ideal after state? Well, they went from lackluster results to great results with clear data and proof, right? Now they feel confident and in control. If I could define the perfect average day for them, maybe it's they're able to focus on strategy, you know, what they were hired to do, not the minute details of the day-to-day. If I could define the perfect status for them afterwards, it's they're respected and trusted, you know, promotion worthy. I'm going to them for the answers, right? And what I believe in the after state from an ideal perspective is my decision, you know, to work with this company or to leverage this tool or to make this hire is that, you know, my decision turned me into a rock star, right? Like it was me that made the decision, and because of it, I'm a rock star. And only then do we insert our products and services, right? Once we've identified what the ideal transformative state is, okay, yeah, by the way, we sell organic social media, content creation, et cetera, right? Rather than saying, hey, marketing director, you know, here's what we sell. We haven't earned the privilege to have that conversation yet. Another example, I'll go quicker here. Marketing director coming off of a bad experience with another agency, right? You know, maybe their average day is doing it myself, fixing mistakes, finding ways to get out of the contract. You know, in the after state, the average day maybe is I'm able to focus on strategy, exploring what's possible with my partner versus finding the ways to get out of the contract. My status is, again, respected and trustworthy, promotion worthy. What I believe is that agency partners are only out to make a profit, and I don't care, and they don't care if I win or succeed, right? Whereas after, agency partners are focused on making me a winner. So these are some of the transformation, you know, that we encourage you guys to map out for your customer segment, identify who they are, and then just have a brainstorm amongst your team to craft this perfect after state. Okay, so that's step one.
I could jump in there. Sure. If you want to go back with a couple tips. You know, from my experience in putting these together, one thing for sure is do not shy away from exaggeration or hyperbole. Reason is that if we're being very real and like just, you know, you're very specific and kind of like, well, that's a little bit of a stretch, you might miss something down the line when you're using this for crafting messaging or, you know, even product development, that if you paint a really hyperbolic picture, there might be things in that hyperbole that you can pull out, kind of distill down to the reality, but without actually being hyperbolic in the first place, it would be very hard to do that. The other thing as well is that when we're putting these together, like if we are truly focusing on the customer segment first, then the before, and then the after, we're not thinking at all about the products that we you know have and you know molding this customer into those products, we actually might be able to come out with some new product ideas that we might not have thought about before. So two tips. One, you know, don't shy away from hyperbole. And then the second tip is really focus in on who that person is and forget your products and services, because after you come out of this, you might realize, hey, we might need to put in a new product here.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. Thanks, Connor. once we have that intimate understanding of the customer segment and we've mapped that transformation, we're looking at something called the value journey canvas. And these are built on a customer segment by segment basis. And it really is digging into the importance of sequence in marketing and in marketing programs. So something that we landed on a while back is a study that was created by a zoologist. The zoologist's name was Desmond Morris. And what he was out to figure out or study a little bit more is how do two people go from first meeting each other to becoming married with kids, right? How does intimacy between two humans form? And saving a lot of the details, I think that what we picked out of this and was most interesting is that it was not important the speed at which the two people would go through these steps, but it was very important that two people went through a series of steps in between first meeting each other to, the rated R version, right? Like, it would be very weird if you were to walk into a bar and you see someone for the first time, and the very next thing you do is, put your hand on their back, right? You're probably getting escorted from the bar and certainly getting a drink thrown in your face or something like that, right? And what I think we found was so interesting is that how is this any different than marketing, right? Most marketers are doing this. So for our first date, I was thinking we could figure out names for our children, right? They're going from first meeting each other to, the last step. And that's what most marketers are doing, right? The role of marketing, I encourage you to write this down and to reflect on this. The role of marketing is just to move prospects and customers seamlessly and subtly through each phase of their value journey, okay? It's kind of just shepherd that sequence or that transformation. So big tool that we use and big process that we go through with all of our clients at the very beginning is to draw out this customer value journey for each customer segment. So if you remember, before state, down here in the bottom left corner, and in the top right corner, the ideal after state. Now, we can't just snap our fingers and create that transformation for them. We need to go through steps similar to what Desmond Morris was explaining in his study, right? So now, in this case, there's 8 steps instead of 12, but the first one, and typically, you could look at this as a funnel, but the first step is to make prospects aware of you, right? They have to see you for the first time, right? This could be a social post that they see, an ad that you got targeted in, maybe it's a referral. They need to become aware. But the next step is that we need to turn that glance into a stare. It's not enough just to show up in somebody's news feed. We got to make it a little bit more of a sticky experience there, right? Where, maybe they read a few blog articles of yours. Maybe they watch a video. They spend some time going back and forth in one of your Instagram stories. How do we turn a glance into a stare? And so a lot of times this is content marketing, right? Most of the time this is content marketing, and people will have to engage with you a few times to then go on to the next step, which is subscribe. Typically this is when someone gives up their contact information in exchange for like a value add resource. Maybe they're registering for something. Maybe it's giving your email address for a free audit or something like that. Now, this is when the relationship is starting to change a little bit, right? It's pretty passive here. It's a little bit more active here, but at this point, it's like, okay, well, I'm going to meet you halfway and give you an opportunity to connect with me one-on-one in exchange for something else. Our goal is to get them to the hook, right? And the hook is a moment in time where we're asking folks to make a micro commitment, right? Of either a little bit of time or a little bit of money. Either one will do. It's where the relationship goes to the next level. This could be sitting in on a webinar. It could be doing a 30-day trial, maybe a test drive. It's your entry point offer, right? And I know a lot of you in the audience have different entry point offers or an opportunity to just get them to give you a little bit, right? A little bit of time, a little bit of money. What this hook allows you to do, if you do it right, is it allows you to excite them, right? This is your opportunity to help them realize that aha moment, right? It's where it goes from a nice to have, whatever you're selling, to I have to have this, right? Because I was aware of them. I naturally engaged them. I chose to give up my information. And then, you know, I gave them an hour and a half of my time or a little bit of money, and they blew it out of the water, right? At this point, you guys are in a position to make the next step more of a, you know, the next obvious step, right? It's a lay down conversion where, you know, whatever your core offer is, you're in a position to sell that more easily, or it's just something that people are coming and asking for you anyways because they've you know, you've subtly and sequentially moved them to that point, right? And then you bring them up the ladder. Maybe it's upsell, maybe it's an annual renewal, another upsell on top of that. Our goal really with this is get them to the point where they become an advocate, right? Whatever you're selling, we want happy customers to say nice things about us. That's a testimonial, a case study. But more than that, we want them to be active promoters of you guys, right? And that's what you want. You want your best customers to become active advocates. So, you know, becoming a referral source, maybe an affiliate agreement. And this all started from just becoming aware. Now, the problem is like I said, most marketers are trying to pick out names for their kids the first time that you see them, right? The first time they serve you an ad, they're trying to sell their core offer. And the problem with that is that doesn't give us the opportunity to transform your target customer segment to their ideal after state. Now, at Hook and Ladder, we always talk about, we want to build predictable and profitable marketing systems, right? Not just individual campaigns. Any individual campaign that we build might fit into just one of these boxes, or maybe it's an awareness and an engagement campaign, right? I want them to see me, but I want them to come to a video that we shot on 10 minutes of Facebook marketing, right? That would be a campaign, and over time, each of these boxes, we as a team, and you guys have the opportunity to do this as well. You get to understand what metrics fit into each of those boxes and what defines success, what things are working and what things aren't. And as long as you kind of are, you know, adopt a mentality of optimization and tinkering and understanding that our goal is to really create that transformation bit by bit. When you commit to that, there will be a time when your marketing system becomes predictable and profitable versus, you know, throwing a dart at a board and hoping something sticks.